Today's highlight with
Nice and Lovely Body Lotion.
Reported you for kidnapping, attempted homicide, and torture, both physical and psychological, and the theft of my fortune.
No, not jail, no. No, jail, no.
You should know that the Senate of the Republic just approved your dismissal.
I have to get out of here. I have to escape.
I like that necklace. Good evening. Good evening, old friend.
You bring out the best in me.
New and improved Nice and Lovely Body Lotion. The 24-hour skin moisturizer that's your skin's best friend.
The best in me.
And the change of government won't stop a thing. I've run out of fingers counting the number of multinationals setting up here.
What about the 3 companies that announced their plans to launch last week?
I say there shortly. Me, I'd be looking to sell.
At what price?
More. Much, much more.
I don't know who you are or how you know these things, but one thing I'm sure of, you're in the wrong job. Here, call me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to hear more from you.
Are you ready for your big break? The East African, understanding the region.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
What is not acknowledged cannot be addressed. Denial defeats elimination. So if I were you, I would not deny that I want to wake up to a brilliant Thursday morning right here on Morning at NTV. So get set, get on your marks, and let's go. But first, with the question of the day. Good morning. Well, those platforms are available, Facebook and Twitter at Morning at NTV. And feel free to head over to your phone, type the answer and send it to 6565. The correct first 5 respondents will each walk away with a mag from Morning at NTV. And please feel free to follow us on our individual handles at MBGold2, Mabel on at Mebkeb, Joel Senyonyi at Joel Senyonyi, and Kasiate at Kasiate. And of course, the sportsman who has not had any sleep for the past couple of days, Isma at Dakaba Chigongo. Of course, tag at NTV Uganda. Now, Mabel, these guys were indeed eliminated and ashamed last night. If you're a supporter of Spain, I know you are also likely to be ashamed today since you're supporting England. But how's the World Cup fever so far for you? Are you still in the mood, or you're forgetting it the moment England stops playing?
Thank you very much, Bran. Indeed, I feel the mood. I think the more games, the more days that go by, the more games I'm able to watch, I feel the World Cup mood. And I'm actually happy that you're not laughing at England today, that you're laughing at someone else. But like I said, Bran, he who laughs last, laughs best. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, whether you're watching from the comfort of your sitting room or at your workplace. I've seen a number of workplaces with TV screens, or if you're watching us online, thank you very much and welcome to today's edition of Morning at NTV. We continue the show with the headlines. Amama Mbabazi speaks out on why he did not popularize the sole candidature of President Museveni. Analysts say Uganda could be heading towards the death trap, and police in Kenya make several arrests after gunmen attacked Mketoni.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji and Brian Molondo.
My name is Mabel Kebirunji. Once again, thank you for joining us. The Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi has spoken out on why he did not popularize the sole candidature of President Yoweri Museveni, saying he was not asked. Speaking to NTV in an exclusive interview at Parliament, Mbabazi, who is also the NRM Secretary General, says it's not yet time to talk about the 2016 general elections. Agnes Nandutu now reports on a matter that has pitted the ruling party Secretary General against the government chief whip.
This is the first time Prime Minister John Patrick Amama Mbabazi breaks the silence on why he was not part of NRM MPs and ministers who have been popularizing the sole candidature of the party chairman, President Yoweri Museveni. Mbabazi, who is also the ruling party Secretary General and Kinkis West MP, told NTV in an interview at Parliament that he was not sent to popularize the Chankwazi resolution.
Well, I don't know if people were sent to do that. I was not sent to do so. So, why do you think? Why do you think so?
The Secretary General, Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi, the leader of government business, the MP of Kinkizi West, is expected to go and popularize and explain issues of Chankwanzi resolution, service delivery issues in his or her, his constituency. Because the way we have been operating as NRM Parliamentary Caucus, when there is an issue for discussion, we sit as a caucus, discuss. When we generate a position, it becomes the caucus position.
The NRM Caucus resolved in February while sitting at the National Leadership Institute, Chankwanzi, that party chairman, President Yoweri Museveni, runs as sole party candidate for the 2016 general elections. Then NRM caucus members, who include ministers and MPs, were given facilitation of 4 million shillings to go and popularize the resolution to the grassroots voters thereafter. Among the NRM members who did not pick the money to implement the party resolution is Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi.
He told us he's going to look at the situation, how the exercise is going on, then if need be, he will intervene. So, we are waiting for his assessment. At what time he will intervene, and when he feels he wants to be facilitated, we shall facilitate him. See,
the Chankwanzi resolution was an opinion of the caucus, all right? And people can talk about it as they wish, and people are free to have free opinions on that or any other subject.
The government chief whip, Justin Lumumba, says it's the duty of the Kinkis West MP to stand by the party resolution as a senior member. Lumumba says as the government chief whip, she is still waiting for Mbabazi to pick the money to go and popularize the resolution on which he appended his signature.
The way we have been operating within these rules, and which rules was him who handed over these rules from SEC to the caucus, and I'm implementing these rules. He has to move and by the Chankwanzi resolution, to which he even signed. And for me as the chair of the caucus, he didn't sign, because I was willing to listen for those for and against, then only endorse a resolution at the end of the decision being taken. So, as Secretary General, the way we have been moving in the caucus, he is also supposed to live within the rules of the caucus.
Mbabazi also clarified that there is no bad blood between himself and the party chairman, President Yoweri Museveni.
The relationship between me and my president is good. There's no doubt about it. I have said many times before that I am not talking about the presidential election yet in NRM or in the country, because we are busy implementing government work. To 2016 is not nearby. So those who make it their preoccupation to talk about that election now, I think are really offside, and I don't want to join people offside.
If Mbabas defies the party directive to popularize the Kyankwanzi resolution, only time will tell if disciplinary action will be taken against him. Agnes Nandutu, NTV, Parliament.
Analysts are warning that Uganda could be heading towards what is described as the debt trap. The country's level of indebtedness now stands at 17 trillion shillings, more than the 2014-15 national budget estimates. Even when Ministry of Finance officials are giving assurance that Uganda's debt status is not worrying, analysts argue that Ugandan taxpayers living now and those unborn will be burdened with the yoke of indebtedness. As Maurice Achol reports, the huge indebtedness has been put down to rampant corruption, where taxpayers' money is diverted, wasted and misused, leading to funding gaps.
Uganda is a third world country, so the country may not entirely do without borrowing, but the question is, at what rate? While reading the national budget estimates on 12th June, Finance Minister Marachi Wanuka tabled a report on the public debt, grants and guarantees for the financial year 2013-2014. Overall, Uganda's debt burden now stands at a whopping 17 trillion shillings. The huge debt burden dates back from 1980, but in 1996, Uganda's debts were waived by at least 82%, but this didn't change much as borrowing by the Ugandan government escalated. Again in 2006, international donors waived Uganda's debt, but this didn't help much since the borrowing continued at a high rate. Director of Programs at the Uganda Debt Network, Julius Kapwepwe, is concerned that even after different multinational institutions waived Uganda's debt, the level of indebtedness seems to be escalating.
It is likely that after a certain time, even those countries that benefited from debt relief initiatives are likely to go back into the spiral.
This year, budget estimates show the total outstanding government domestic debt at 1.7 trillion shillings, while the external debt amounts to 7 trillion shillings. Under the Public Finance and Accountability Act 2003, Uganda should not exceed a certain ceiling of borrowing against the GDP. State Minister for Finance, Gichano Mach, says Uganda is still within the international realm of borrowing against her GDP.
Both domestic and foreign is within the acceptable range internationally. Yeah, so it is being managed.
But Opposition Shadow Minister of Finance Geoffrey Kanya argues that Uganda's level of indebtedness is unsuitable, yet many government programs to improve people's lives have not been implemented.
Some of it, we have not even implemented programs and we are paying commitment fee and surcharge.
The Uganda Debt Network puts down the problem to corruption, while some MPs argue government does not prioritize programs and where to spend.
So government owes a lot of debt to service providers, and that itself stifles the private sector from growing. They can't have money for investment because it is being held by government.
We have an extravagant government. Ugandans may not be aware that they are running two governments. You have two cabinets.
High indebtedness means ordinary Ugandans are bound to suffer because government will not adequately provide social services like healthcare, education and infrastructure, instead of focusing on debt servicing.
That shows that our children, ourselves and our children, have a cost to pay.
The junior finance minister and some Ugandans stress that if focus is put on infrastructure, it could stimulate other sectors that could boost the economic and social development.
People should not get worried about this because also countries like US, countries like Germany, they also do borrowing. So as you're aware, Uganda is a third world country, and I think we are getting there.
The quality of governance also contributes significantly to the level of increased debt for Uganda.
That whatever we are borrowing for is for development, and particularly development of infrastructure, and then something which is targeted towards the education and welfare of the people.
for a nation like Uganda that is still a third world state. This kind of debt is so huge for it. But as the finance minister stated, we're still in the international realm of the debts. But how far will Uganda go with this kind of debt, and who shall pay at the long run? Maurice Ochol, NTV.
Police in Kenya have made several arrests after gunmen attacked Mketoni in the coastal town of Lamu, killing scores while several others remain missing. The Inspector General of Police, David Kimayo, revealed that among those arrested is a man who was allegedly running a fake social media account for the Somali terrorist group, the Al-Shabaab. Solomon Seranja brings us the latest development on the Mketoni attack.
The attack on Mpeketoni in the coastal town of Lamu was clinical and ruthless, leaving behind the village in mourning and the government under pressure to show results.
It is now clear that intelligence on this attack was availed to security officers in Mpeketoni. Unfortunately, the officers did not act accordingly.
Now, Kenyan police say they have arrested several suspects after repeated attacks in Mpeketoni left at least 60 people dead and several others injured. Many are still missing. The Inspector General of the Kenyan Police, David Kimayo, announced on his Twitter account the arrest of a suspect, Ishmael Omondi, accused of allegedly operating a fake social account purporting to be Al-Shabaab so as to claim responsibility for the Mpeketoni attack. Also in custody is Ahmed Abdallah, the owner and driver of the car suspected to have been used by the gunmen to carry out the attack. The Kenyan police chief also said that the officer in charge of the Mpeketoni police station, Aden Ali, has been dismissed from his duties with immediate effect and will be charged in court. The latest development on the Mpeketoni attack comes just a day after President Uhuru Kenyatta refuted that the attacks were not linked to the Al-Shabaab, but rather politically motivated.
This, therefore, was not an Al-Shabaab terrorist attack. Evidence indicates that local political networks were involved in the planning and execution of the heinous crime.
The agony still remains loud in Mpeketoni as villagers mourn their loved ones. Rachel is a newly widowed after her husband was killed in the attack. Residents have already started leaving their homes to an open ground that will be heavily guarded by the Kenyan security forces. To these women and children, there is no time to waste as the night draws near. The old and young all hoping that this is only a terrible dream. This is the second worst terror-related attack since September, when at least 70 people were killed in the attack on Nairobi's Westgate shopping mall.
Remain unknown and at large.
You're still watching Morning at NTV this Thursday. We now cross over to the three gentlemen, Joel, Brian and Simon, to find out what's making news in the press. Good morning, Simon. Good to see you today. What's happening in the newspapers?
Morning, Mabel, indeed it's a pleasure, seeing you from where I am seeing you, and of course for those viewers who are watching us this wonderful Thursday morning, the 19th day of June 2014, and yes, we are getting geared up to share with you what's making it on the headlines of today's newspapers, and we have the Daily Monitor and the Observer. Quite interesting stuff therein, don't miss. A very good morning once again. It's an interestingly chilly Thursday morning from where we are seated at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel. My name is Simon Kasiate. I'm joined by my good friends live now, for Joel and Brian. Good morning, fellows. I missed you yesterday. We were speaking via machines and it wasn't quite very personal as it is here. And I'm glad to see you with a tinge of blue, each one of you.
Good morning. Yesterday I was rummaging through my archives and guess what I found? 50 shillings. Do you remember that?
You guys, you're very good at hoarding.
Or not hoarding. I mean, you have so much money now, a lot of it is lost. So what happens when we are presenting this show sometime in 2025? Will you pull out a 50,000 Ugandan shillings note?
Wow. 50,000 shillings, that one I'll have used it, sure. This one I could keep.
So this one was red. I remember the 200 shillings was brown.
Something of the sort. Likewise with the 500 shilling note. Something related to that.
Well, there we have it. That's not certainly what's making it the headlines, but this is what is making it the pockets of Joel. And if one is not mistaken, probably that's the only money he has in his pocket. There we have it. The Daily Monitor this morning. Schools to raise fees over new tax. Isn't he lucky that he doesn't have anyone he's paying for school fees?
It's
money.
Let me keep my money.
Well, let's not forget that.
Bank of Uganda and tell them to exchange and give me what, 50k?
Well, there we have it. Well, in the last budget proposals by the Ministry of Finance and Government, for that matter, we did see a tax imposed on scholastic and schooling issues, matters of education, and school owners. As always, those and I said it yesterday on this show, it's not that really this much tax. I mean, they may increase the tax or levy a tax on schools, but wait and see how much they'll be increasing by. They are more like these taxi totes that we play around with. They increase the price of fuel by 20 shillings and they increase their transport fares by 300 shillings. One wonders how they calculate with that scale. But there we have it. Brace yourself, you parents or guardians, to pay a lot more for your child's education. It's in the Daily Monitor.
It's interesting how fuel seems to have the ripple effect, even when you don't see the tethering between, say, fuel and I don't know what.
Airtime?
Well, some of it is really very far-fetched.
And mobile money charges.
I mean, what are you going to transport? The network? The what?
Well, I'll ask that question when the Director of Budget does visit us here of the big story, who I suspect it must be on his way right about now. The front page of the Daily Monitor this morning has an interesting picture that speaks 1,000 words. This is a picture of, you remember her, Bad Black, but there's nothing black about this bad person here. I mean, it could be maybe Bad Brown.
She has really changed.
Absolutely. So she loses her appeal for bail. Her story is well known, and I can only say much more about her story if I have to comment about what I saw on the television yesterday. Her former husband, or this I don't want to call him a foolish man who she swindled, but I think this David Greenhall guy has something lacking in his moral turpitude. For him to be chasing away a cameraman like the way he did, I think that David, if you are watching this show, your moral turpitude is so wanting. You would be the last person to be fearing the presence of cameras showing you around. I'm not a judge in this, and I'm not a moral judge, I'm not a moralist, but I think that your actions are below despicable.
But do you blame him?
I know he has a right
himself,
he
like some of these students at UCU.
I have been,
so obviously, he's
no. Listen, I followed.
Do you follow every case that is in court?
Brian, I followed closely the testimony of Bad Black. There was a time when she came out to speak explicitly over their sexual exploits, and I tell you what, this guy.
But there was no graphic representation of those sexual exploits.
Well,
you never saw a video. You never saw a picture. But it was also interesting to see them talking. Like
and that happens a lot. They seem to be in a jovial mood. You know, sometimes they seem to be having a one-on-one banter. I don't know.
When love is in the air, intellect disappears. So.
If there was intellect in the first place, for especially this man.
That's why he protested the cameras showing.
Well, I know he has got a right to privacy and all that, but also he must understand that we have a right to free
without a doubt, especially since he chose to go
and
to
he's
court,
not an authority in court who should bar camera people from filming them. Anyway, I don't even know what our cameraman was doing there. I think we have more picture take and more for
it was a current case.
So all right, NSSF board approves Agaba and Ayota deputy. That's for top jobs at the NSSF. Agaba, you know him, he was the head at the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority. Mouthful of the word there.
So my friend Agaba is now the next guy to head for the guillotine, because I am told that the top job at the NSSF is more like a poisoned chalice.
There seems to be a demon that hounds that place. I don't know. But
I think Agaba should call some pastors and bishops to first cleanse.
you can call this crew. We
NSSF.
go and shanda that place.
Well-
We'll be led by Reverend
Bishop.
Simon Kasiani.
No. I am at another level, please. I'm
Which one?
Monsignor. Well, we're also waking up to a headline story on page 3 of the Daily Monitor talking about our very good friend, Professor Gilbert Mukenya, who has been in and out of court for various reasons. And this particular one, for which the story is based on, is that case the one of his political mobilizers, the former driver of the Papa Nuncio, who accuses him of seducing his wife. Now, we are told here by the Daily Monitor that Professor Gilbert Mukenya has admitted to paying 110 million shillings to this friend, Emmanuel Nyaba Yango, whose wife he allegedly, well, I don't know it's a case of allegedly here, whose wife he actually did seduce.
This man has money. When you pay 110 million shillings for seducing someone's wife, I'm thinking, hey, where?
Some men may say, please come and
but let's look at the other
seduce
flip side. I remember this old
110
Jamaican hit which says, if I had $1 for every woman,
I'd be rich.
well, I think if he's going to spend 110 million shillings for every woman he allegedly seduces, I can say
And
that.
what stupefied me, many times I found ladies dance to that song and I was thinking, what is that in your heads? You know, this song is deriding you to the letter.
But I will tell you something. If it was a story of maybe gross corruption or some one of these other or these felonies which we always form on the mouth over, would be here tossing and turning and beating ourselves. But here we're talking about a case of of proved gross infidelity of a married man who was engaged. And it's not just any ordinary married Kasiate or Mulondo here, but a former vice president, a chairperson of the party. But somehow, it's on page 3. It's a small little story on page 3. It's not even a headline.
I have always argued, even on radio, that
Why
somehow
not?
infidelity.
This is at the core of a moral fabric. I thought that such leaders should be leading by example. So that
in the US, infidelity has a big mark on one's. Bill Clinton was scarred.
But
when the money is...
And is the US one of those countries that...
Bill Clinton was...
But
if a politician...
Is USA one of those countries we aspire to be like?
Of course we do.
So why don't we... So why do we aspire to be like the US in other things? We want to speak like them, we want to dress like them, we want to eat like them, we want to play their basketball, but we don't want to shun issues of infidelity of their leaders.
But you see, when a leader in the US has committed adultery or cheated or had an affair, the press is going to have a field.
Or even taken a selfie with another woman at a public function.
At a funeral. That is why.
Yeah. But you take selfies everywhere.
Yeah, no, but you see, this is a...
But when Mukenya goes down, Pakachini with a musician, it is, it is talked about. But
I think it's because, our moral fiber has been eaten up to the core.
And somehow you'll find a group of people even clamoring that such a person should continue and contest for the presidency without shame.
It's a scenario of who hasn't,
cast the first one. So in other words, Professor Mukenya's alleged, peccadillos in that realm are possibly a reflection of what every Ugandan man possibly goes through at one time.
Man, but
the majority of us, right?
I've had many. Actually, when this case played out some time back, and they were saying, but look. I met some guys who are saying, actually, my challenge is not that this man committed infidelity. It is that he stooped so low and he went with this quote-unquote nobody. So they did not even have an issue with the infidelity.
But then this is just one of them. I mean, we had the Naku issue that also played out.
Actually, it's that Naku issue that I was talking about.
No, this is a different woman, So, I mean, we are seeing that this is recurrent.
But my question is,
you can claim the devil tempted, but he didn't tempt you 10 times.
What is the effect
Sometimes you give the devil too much credit. The devil took off your shirt, then he took off your trousers. What is
the effect of infidelity on our politics? Will anyone care about, even if, and I apologize for say if the president did it and we found out and it was in the papers,
just like we don't care
would he, for example, face impeachment for infidelity?
I don't see that happening.
Who would impeach him? Those who haven't done it to cast the first stone, I doubt anyone would pick up even a little molecule.
But if you see what was done in Italy, France, when it happened for Spain.
Spain is not Uganda. But look at how we glorify guys who steal stupendous amounts of money. And what do we do to them? We reappoint them. When they go back to their villages, they get heroic welcomes. So you don't.
But I think let's get down on a subject that will not get us a lot of flack, because I'm sure now the tweet sphere is now going to go up as of who are you to get this
There's
one?
a friend who has always lectured us every morning. It's taken a while without doing so.
Simon's friend.
Simon's good friend. The other day, you guys went for coffee or what?
In Kenya, the situation doesn't seem to get any better as we see these skirmishes coming and playing it out and causing insecurity in the region. And we're waking up the news in the Daily Monitor this morning saying security has been beefed up at all borders. And yes, in fact, of course, you know, when Kenya sneezes, the entire region catches a cold. I have seen heightened security checks even in my own little circles where I apply, and this is a point of serious concern here.
Yesterday, I had a very, very bad, not really bad, but I'm at Nakumat and going through, you know, the check, and this lady is just literally just passing this thing. I told her, Madam, if we got a terrorist attack right now, you'd also die. Did you notice the lady was checking him and was checking, can you check me a lot more thoroughly?
Using bare hands.
Like I'm thinking to myself, you know, Kaihura,
but it's here in the Daily Monitor. Security is lax in markets. And
without a doubt, it is. I think we need to do a lot more frisking. Even though, I mean, I see the.
No, but I disagree with that. You know,
this place, if I really want to get out something,
I believe in the Israeli mode. They bomb a bus on the streets of Tel Aviv, immediately cordon off that place, clean the carnage, and open the road and let people start living life like nothing happened. That way you beat the cycle of the terrorists. But guess what?
Yeah, but
a little grenade goes off in Petekon, in Kenya, and God rest the souls of the departed. And then this entire place gets terrorized. At the end of the day, the terrorists win. We need to show them that we are a resilient spirit.
Are we?
Yes, I think we are. At least we can pretend to be.
We can pretend to be. I hope we get there sometime. Talking about resilience, youth need to get up to that. 20,000 youth to get government funds. You know, there seems to be all these programs. You know, youth life.
Wait a minute. I'm seeing names here. I'm looking out for my name.
It's not there.
Let me look in the list of Chirura. Chitongore youth, Rwamuranga Tukore, Nkungu youth Tukore.
I'm really of the view that dishing out handouts to youth is really not going to better their lives. We cannot begin to tackle the basics, you know. Talk about the education sector, for example. Look, if you don't have a good education, chances are very high you're going to struggle in life. And that is why there seems to be a ripple effect of, you know, your grandfather was this way, your father, and now you and your children. We need to get to the core of this.
Isn't it that
this money is used for sports betting and the world over, governments are, you know, fighting with the problem of creating jobs. But they're not dishing out regardless money like of the quality of education. But they are in Australia, they give out dole. People are going to Australia so that they live for free. If you stay in a country for more than 6 months without going back, then you get onto the government. For example, these handouts they keep giving out. You know, you give birth to a baby, they give you a house, and you know, you're unemployed, they put you on a certain payroll. It has should have their economy is plummeting slowly but surely, so it does not work.
Let's get down to the region before we get down to Australia and the UK. South Sudan is appealing to Uganda to explain Kiir's job. You know, the rebel group led by his former Vice President Machar demanded that for anything to proceed along the lines of having a unity government, President Salva Kiir must step down as president, and we start from a level ground. And the South Sudan government is saying, come on, Uganda, you help and explain to the international community that Salva Kiir cannot step down. He can't step down. Please explain to them. I hope that Uganda takes that.
But I think these rebels are asking for too much, really. Could it be because they actually know that they're a lot more powerful than Salva Kiir and his forces? They're actually powerful. Machar and these forces, you know, they seem disorganized, but they're a force to reckon with. But look, you know, if these guys keep fighting like we see it happening everywhere, what does it come to happen? I mean, to show for it at the end of the day, people massacre. So if they can get some sense into these good heads of theirs and get to talk.
Getting back to insecurity, we're working up some news coming in from the rest of the region that 22 have been killed in blasts in Nigeria and Somalia. Now, and of course, we're also told that Egypt has been readmitted to the African Union after the swearing in of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who is formerly a field marshal and now a man dressed in a suave and debonair suit.
Amin would be cringing in his thinking that he's the only
field marshal. No, RCC is a field marshal by every sense of the word.
In the Red Papa this morning, the headline is Museveni fires Mbabazi's wife. Jacqueline loses NRM Women's League
it's not over the fifth star.
An appointment.
But
I don't know what's wrong with this paper. Also, I'm getting, disturbed every other day. The things they report. You're thinking, can we have a touch of professionalism?
But the other women in the party are supporting the president.
Yeah, but you see,
and Jackie seems to be the only
it's
one
an
that
elected
doesn't
position.
support.
You don't wake up and say, I have fired you, you know. The other day they were reporting about, I don't know who and stuff.
Let's walk away maybe from politics and talk about something more interesting. We're looking at My Car magazine this morning. It is your favorite pull-out for you men who love your toys. And today they're talking about the new 2014 S-Class Fit for a King. Now, I must say that for me, when I look at this machine, I salivate. But I know something about my love for these Mercedes-Benzes. Is it 2014? I know when I will drive this. Maybe 2050. I mean, I have a passion for buying them very old and overused. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, wow, this is my car, 2030 earliest. There we have it.
You'll be fine, you'll be fine.
But some people are aspiring to have like the one you have.
Which was made in 1993. Well, should you tell your partner how much you earn?
Yes,
that's the $1
that
million question in heart to heart.
You know, there are ladies who say his money is our money, my money is my money. Thieves like this. But look, I think you guys, should open up to your wives. I hope your wife knows how much you earn. I hope I'm sure she does, It is a good thing because you became one when you got married, yeah? So everything that you have became hers and vice versa.
How would they if I also do not know how much I earn?
If you also don't know how much you earn,
because he has more month than salary.
I mean, one time you find that he's at Capitol, then the other time you see him on NTV, then you hear he's an ESCOM.
Yeah, you should declare all those,
No, you declare one, the others are simply hobbies. You regard them as
still in heart to heart, interesting articles here. Not anyone who has pants is a good man. Interesting.
This is too subjective. Does everyone that wears
Seated
skirt
by
a
a lady.
good woman?
A
man should write something like that.
No, I see many women in pants, and clearly they are not good women. So, she's very right. I mean, not everyone who wears pants is a good
probably
man.
just has quite a bit of beef. Help! Somebody here says the girls seem to elude me.
Sir,
you can be sure
what's
this
happening?
is what Joel saying. If anything, he's saying ish.
Well, I think it's about this time that we get it down to discuss a few matters on the international scene. Mabel, from where you're standing by, we know more pain is being inflicted on our friends in Spain. Something about the name. I mean, you should choose what name you should give yourself. This time round, Spain is facing it. You'll be telling us more, especially when you're with
for saying Spain is not Uganda.
So I think clearly, indeed, Spain is not Uganda, and that is the story of their escapades in the World Cup. But also waking up to, news that President Obama is going forward to ignore and bypass Congress on the move to have boots on the ground in Iraq, if for nothing else to stop the advancing ISIS rebels. Now the question is, since you went to Iraq the other many years ago, have you made Iraq a better country or not? Is that what's trending on the international scene? Share with us, Mabel.
Thank you very much, Simon. And indeed, you are right. Spain is not Uganda. Probably they are paying for what they said, and they join a host of other countries that won the World Cup and have failed to even go through the group stages. You are right about Obama. He says that I don't need permission on Iraq, but I will go to Congress to get, I guess, to let them know about his upcoming decision. But he does insist, I do not need permission to go to Iraq. I don't know if we're going to see a repeat of what happened when they went in, when George Bush went in with Tony Blair. Now on to other news stories. Boko Haram threat spreading across West Africa. This is an exclusive story on the Sky News website. They say it is spreading, and if they need joint efforts from Niger, Chad and Nigeria in order to stop these military Islamists who keep on growing and getting bigger and more powerful in the region. Also on the Sky News page, ISIS militants will be used to target the UK. A Kurdish intelligence official says that there are about 450 British nationals who are part of ISIS rebel group. So he's basically saying, UK, if you do not help us, some of these are your people who are fighting ISIS. On the BBC page, we do have this story here. Spain 0 and Chile 2. And it's very interesting. We have Thierry Henry saying that he has been there and it's not fun. He knows what it's like. He also goes on to say he feels sorry and sad. And then also Rio saying that it was probably a slow game, but obviously our thoughts are with the Spanish. We'll be talking about that later in the sports section of the show. Ebola continues and over 300 people have died in West Africa because of Ebola. The most have died in Guinea, and this is according to reports from the World Health Organization. We also see on CNN here Obama talking about Congress, and a Chinese tycoon took out a full-page ad in the New York Times to say he's giving free lunch and cash to the poor people of the United States. He wants to show that there are actually Chinese philanthropists around. He's inviting 1,000 people. All you have to do is register on a Hotmail address, and when you attend that lunch, he will also give you $300 cash money, as we like to say here in Uganda. And on Al Jazeera, the Libyans will be going to the polls next week, despite political chaos, despite organizational troubles, and the prospect of a low turnout. The Libyan election for next week is scheduled to continue. And we also, and that's all we had for you here on the international scene. The big story will be coming up right after this break.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
You and I ever gonna have a chance to be sisters?
You want the baby to have my name?
Would that be okay?
Son, I'm happy you came. Yes, especially since I thought you were shunning all things Newman. I have my own reasons for showing up.
What did you say about him?
I'm sorry, attempted rape.
Okay, look, whatever you think you know about him, you don't know his heart.
If there is a way to make me feel more miserable, you will instinctively find it.
You gave up the one woman you loved, and now you're having a hard time figuring out how to move on?
I can't imagine who would want to hurt a good man like you.
Okay, you know what? I don't need you telling me how to feel about Lily.
Are you pregnant? No. Then why are you trying to alienate Tyler?
Has something happened between the two of you?
Are you afraid that I'm gonna do something to ruin your marriage, or that you will?
Why don't we have a party? I'll bring Nikki and bring your siblings. How's that?
Now, what are you gonna do? You gonna blackmail them this time, or are you gonna bribe them?
Looks like Mommy's not the only one who knows how to make up a story.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Thank you for joining us this Thursday morning. Remember, you can be part of the show by following us on Facebook or Twitter or sending an SMS to 6565. We now cross over to Brian, I beg your pardon, to Simon and his guest. Simon, whom do you have today for the big story?
Thank you very much, Mabel. Of course, you know we are coming in from that week when the national budget was read, and of course, there are those who consider themselves big winners in this budget, and there are those who consider themselves tremendous losers in this budget. We've been battling over it in different sectors, but today we have the privilege of hosting the Director of Budget from the Ministry of Finance, who is going to throw in the ministries and, of course, by extension, government stake on this budget of 2014-2015. His name is Mr. Kenneth Mugambe. I remember that on the 11th and even on the 12th day of June, when the budget was read, and the day before that, I did admit to many of you, if you are watching then, that matters of budget are certainly a lot of Spanish to me. For me, what really concerns me is that I tend to spend much more than I earn when I look at it. In fact, I've now stopped calculating how much I spend in a month because it gives me goose pimples asking the question where that extra comes from. That is my personal budget. But now looking at the national budget here, we just heard from the last budget that indeed there was a reinstatement of some tax on the supplies for agricultural products. We saw health workers and teachers walking away with a smile. And of course, we know that education institutions, especially of the private nature, were also given a bit of a beating with regard to tax. So this morning we have the privilege of hosting Mr. Kenneth Mugambe, the Director Budget, Ministry of Finance, to share with us what their take is and how they came up with this kind of budget. Kenneth, good morning.
Good morning, Simon.
Very briefly and in an overview, tell us how different this 2014-2015 budget is from previous ones.
Now, Simon, thanks a lot for hosting me here. First and foremost, I think it is important I explain essentially what the whole background this budget is. Of course, as we all know, a budget is an estimate of the revenues and expenditures.
True that.
Annual, what government expects to generate in the next year and what it expects to spend. Now, there are three fundamental objectives that a government budget must address. The first one is it must stimulate what we call, of course in our talk, economic growth. Now, what economic growth essentially means for the ordinary person is the production of goods and services. So a budget must stimulate the production of goods and services.
In other words, must be that kick that should get us working.
To ensure that you get more goods and services in the economy. The second aspect of a budget is what we call macroeconomic stability.
What is that?
Now, macroeconomic stability to an ordinary person is essentially ensuring there is a stable economic environment, maintaining stability in the economy and order, ensuring that prices are not just moving haphazardly, interest rates are stable, the foreign exchange rate is stable. So that is macroeconomic stability.
And that's also the presence of goods and services on the market. That if
which I talked about at the beginning. So those are two key fundamental objectives of a budget. The third key fundamental objective of a budget is the delivery of goods and services, what we call service delivery. Through a budget, government is able to deliver all these goods and services, whether it is roads, whether it is education, etc. So those are three fundamental objectives of the budget, and I saw it is important that we actually start from that perspective.
So how is this current budget going to meet these three fundamentals we talked about?
That is a very good question. If you start from last financial year, our focus has been on infrastructure development.
Indeed.
If you look at the theme of the budget of this year, we are saying maintaining the momentum for infrastructure development, for growth and structural transformation or socio-economic development.
Someone can argue this is just a theme. These are words that you always throw
exactly. And that is the difference between, and that is actually where it is important that we understand the essence of the budget of this year. If you look at the allocation of resources, for example, in terms of the delivery of the goods and services, the bulk of the money, 4 trillion shillings out of 15 trillion, is actually going to energy and roads. True. Now, this is extremely important because energy and roads affect many different sectors.
They are the drivers of the economy.
They are the drivers of the economy. I have heard, of course, some argument. People saying, in fact, it was last night on this same, TV.
Oh, you Andrew doing quite a lot of
I do actually watch your TV. Andrew Meda saying that the problem of this budget is that we are prioritizing investment as opposed to consumption. Okay,
of course that is the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
And the budget that is going into consumption is certainly a narrative.
Exactly. Now, of course, it depends on how you look at it. In the short term, depending on what gains you want to make, in the short term, of course, you want to stimulate consumption because it also has an effect on the economy.
Absolutely.
But definitely, in the long run, you want to spend your money on investment. You want to save and invest for future consumption.
Especially if you're a country like this one.
Especially if you are a country like Uganda, a country which is still starting from a low base, a low income country. And this is essentially what this budget is all about. This budget is an investment budget. So if you ask me what is different about this budget is not about consumption. This budget is about investment for future consumption.
Right over there, Ken.
Yes.
Many times we come up with all these, well and high,
yes.
well-meaning
yes.
and high-sounding objectives of our budgets.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the actual implementation, to see whether there is investment on the ground, something goes missing.
Yeah.
That you have money allocated for such activities, the activities are not done, and the money is spent.
Yeah.
How are we going to?
Now, I was actually coming to
I'm not talking about the issue of corruption here, and I'm using very many words.
No, it is actually related to corruption, and I'm actually coming to that. If you look at the other 3 key objectives that we stated in the budget speech, which the minister stated, one, as I said, is infrastructure development. The second one is revenue enhancement. The third one is actually economic governance. We are looking at governance from a broad angle, looking at the extent to which money is actually spent where it's supposed to be spent.
Exactly.
So aspects of fiduciary assurance, ensuring that money must be used for the delivery of those services for which it is meant, ensuring that there is value for money, which is essentially the point you are making. So what we are doing, we are putting in place measures to ensure that these resources, we have 2 main issues that we talk about as economists. Allocative efficiency
Before
and
you take
technical
me
efficiency.
to your economic talk here, Kenneth, you are going off on a tangent here and I want to bring
No.
you back. You said you've put in place measures to ensure that money is actually spent for what it was meant to, and we get value for money.
Yes.
What are those measures?
And this is exactly what I was telling you, because there is what we call allocative efficiency. Essentially, what allocative efficiency means is that you put money where your priorities are. Because in many cases, especially African countries, they pronounce one priority, but when you look at the allocation of money, it's actually going to a different, you can actually talk of, say, roads, and actually when you look at the allocation of resources, you are spending the money somewhere else. So in our case, the money is going where our priorities are. So the second question you are asking is, what measures are we putting in place
to ensure that
this money goes where it is supposed to go? We have reformed our system. We have reformed our system, especially the public financial management system. What is critical, and actually what people miss, is the fact that you must put in place systems. You must put in place a number of measures and systems to ensure that these resources reach the intended beneficiaries.
Right over there, Kenneth.
Yes.
You have reformed your
public financial management system.
Absolutely.
Yes.
How airtight is it? I mean, we know that systems are not foolproof, some of them.
Absolutely.
We know that many people can break into these systems.
Absolutely.
People break out of jails. So
Yes.
how can you assure us
from the
that
experience,
this system is...
because many of these reforms we undertook actually started from this year. Okay, last financial to some extent, but largely in 13-14. So in 14-15, we are really going to be tightening these reforms. Now, in terms of the PFM system, or the public financial management system, we are rolling out our IFMS, the integrated financial management system. Now, the reason why we do
finance school this morning,
the reason we do that, because you have no choice.
Absolutely.
You must have a system that will be able to help you to deliver the resources, but also be able to track that those resources are going to the intended beneficiaries. And this is actually the fundamental mistake we make in Africa. There is no way you are going to send these resources to the last service delivery point unless you have the systems in place. Many times when you talk about IFMS, people simply think that we are copying jargons from the World Bank, from IMF. It is absolutely important that you have a system that delivers these resources. So we are putting in place these resources, these systems. If you take the example of this
But
year.
you see again, Kenneth,
Yes.
you know, Ugandans are like what was described in what I always quote every morning here,
Yes.
the Chinua Achebe saying of
Yeah.
the more the hunter learns how to shoot without missing,
Yes.
the more the birds learn how
Yes.
to fly without patching.
Exactly.
You may have all these airtight systems,
Yes.
but still, unscrupulous people will always come up. What are you going to ensure that even those who beat your system and swindle the money here and there are actually brought to book and the money is recovered? I think that's where our problem is as Uganda.
Okay, that's the second point. But the first point, from what you're saying, is essentially what the private sector does. You must ensure that you have an edge over those people because they're actually thinking by the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like we had the IFMS, as I said, right now we have established the treasury single account. Because one of the weaknesses we had in our system is having so many different accounts. At some point, the government has over 1,000 accounts.
All operating,
Some are known, some are not known. Of course, are known by a few individuals who are taking advantage. So what we have done is to consolidate all those accounts into a single treasury account. So that helps us actually to monitor our resources more critically. Yes, absolutely.
That sounds
if you
very
ask
good.
me now what our balance is on the consolidated fund, I would actually tell you. In the past, it was not possible.
Because
if you ask me,
small ministry,
of course,
accounting
exactly.
officers.
If you ask me how much money UNRWA, as the main implementing agency for roads, still has on its account, today I will actually tell you. In the past, it wasn't. So it was actually easy for somebody to mismanage all these accounts, okay, without Ministry of Finance knowing. But now with a treasury single account, I'm actually, just by click of a button, I'm able to tell. So I can actually easily follow up and monitor and understand what is going on with these resources.
Maybe for the benefit of those who are just joining us, this man doesn't sound like a typical government civil servant, but yes, we have the Director of Budget, Ministry of Finance. This is the new face and breed of civil servants, very articulate and spot on in their explanations. Kenneth,
yes.
I'll take you away from these explanations of the prudence that is going on at the Ministry of Finance and just start a row now that many people are talking about. Private school owners are saying this new tax that you put onto them is going to stifle not only their service delivery as education service providers who are better than government, but also the parents are going to grapple further with affording a decent education for their children. Is this budget really considering the future of this country with regard to human resource development?
Private schools are business entities like any other business entity.
Like private TV stations?
Absolutely, like NTV. Unless if you are telling me that because NTV, of course you have some social obligations you undertake.
Exactly.
Now, private institutions, private schools are business entities. So as far as they make money, as far as they make profit, they must pay taxes.
But they already pay taxes through consumables. They buy food, they buy building materials. Of course, some of them send us to bring building materials.
Of course, Simon does the same. Simon builds, Simon actually goes to the supermarket, Simon consumes, whatever. But at the end of the day, you still pay as you earn. So the whole essence is to ensure that these private schools are also brought into the tax bracket so they can actually pay taxes. Now, from our research, this is not going to have a major effect on the school fees, because I know the worry of the general public is that this is going to be translated, of course, into school fees. To an extent, yes, but at the end of the day, of course, they are also looking at the extent to which they are able to compete in the market. So if they are going to compete, there's an extent to which they can actually raise their school fees.
But supposing they form a cartel and say now all of us who own the St. Lawrence schools, the St. whatever schools, the St. Michael's schools, they form a little cartel as private owners of schools and now move towards charging us exorbitantly. Is government able to at least protect we the consumers of their product?
First of all, of course,
you hardly do that for us who ply in taxis. You increase the price of fuel by 20 shillings, the taxi man increases his tax fare by 500 shillings.
But the parents, of course, have a choice. Remember, this is, there are many schools,
That's what, but I was also talking about the cartel, if they form a cartel.
If they form a cartel, definitely, of course, first of all, remember the government is also moving towards improving the whole education system. The Buganda roads, the Nakasero primary schools, they are all there. And of course, over time, their quality of education will definitely improve. So if Kampala parents increases
we are hoping
their fees, a parent has a choice to move a child from Kampala parents and take him to Nakasero. So, but at the end of the day, I think they are looking at the market. And as good business people, I wouldn't expect them to do that.
What about the farmers who are also saying that agricultural inputs, which previously had been exempt from these exorbitant taxes and was acting as an incentive to drive agriculture as our, source of income for this country, now you have an imposition on.
Of course, as government, we are not moving away from that. But as I said, among the key objectives of the budget is that we need to enhance our revenues. Now, the agricultural sector in Uganda, if you look at its contribution to revenue, is extremely low. So we are trying to bring the agricultural sector into the tax bracket to ensure that people who engage in agriculture are also contributing to national development. But remember, there are many other interventions that we have which are still providing subsidized, inputs to the farmers. Because we are enhancing, of course, as you heard His Excellency the President
Because many times the farmers will argue that they cannot compete effectively on the international market, even on the regional market, if they don't get as much incentive as their colleagues say.
No, as I said, we are still providing an incentive because we are actually, speeding up the whole process of supplying inputs to the farmers through the reformed NADS, which, as His Excellency the President said,
is going to be run by the army.
It's going to be how it is done is a different question. But at the end of the day, what we are interested in is to make sure that these inputs reach the final farmer. And I think this is actually the main weakness in our agricultural delivery system.
Kenneth, now I'll speak on behalf of people like myself whose salaries are known through a system and we are levied pay as you earn, and we pay taxes even if we didn't want to. We have to pay the taxes.
Of course.
And then there's also another group of people who earn a lot more than we do, who live a very flashy life, but you don't seem to always tax them. Whenever you're looking at tax reforms and enhancing on your revenues, you're always overburdening the already compliant guy that is already paying his taxes. There is this informal sector down here. I'll give you an example. People down in Chikubo who run multi-million businesses. There are friends of mine who run businesses. They earn much more than I do, but they do not pay any other direct tax to the government. Why do you, in your tax reforms, always look at overburdening the already burdened formal taxpayer, who are few of us, and you leave the vast majority of informal sector people who are not.
It is actually not entirely true that we are overburdening the few taxpayers. If you look at the trajectory of this budget speech, for example, if you look at the exemptions which have been removed by the minister, those have been actually beneficial to the big companies. So once those exemptions have been removed, now these big companies will start paying taxes. Now, the whole range of taxes, where there are the excise duties, of course, to an extent, they will come down to some of these informal businesses you are talking about. There is a good initiative that is going on right now between URA, Uganda Registration Services Bureau, and KCCA to ensure that there is a coordinated arrangement where all these taxpayers are identified and are known. The challenge actually has been that many of these had managed,
elude
the tax system. But I can actually assure you, the days are numbered.
The days are numbered.
Read my lips.
The days are numbered.
The days are numbered. They definitely be covered by the tax bracket. And this is the beginning.
Now let's get down to the people who consider themselves a bit of winners in this budget of yours, the teachers and the health workers. Some people have argued that this little money that you allocated, about 1,000, well, there's been some monies I'm seeing here, a lot of figures, but just broadly speaking, some money was put in place to increase the salary of some teachers. Some health workers are smiling to the bank. Others will argue that this is too little and maybe too late.
Of course, it is not that some money has been for some teachers. It is actually for all government teachers. So all government teachers have definitely benefited from the salary increment. And I want to tell you that this salary increment is actually not as meager as people are actually saying. We agreed with UNATU. UNATU is the Association of the Teachers.
Yes, the union.
That over 3 years, we should enhance their salary. Actually, we should double their salary. And this is essentially what we are doing. Okay, so we are right on track in doing what we committed to do. If you take an average pay for a primary school teacher, it's about 400,000. Now, after this budget, that will be about 500,000. Now, compare that with what a primary school teacher earns in the private schools. In a private school, it is actually half of that. So by any means, this increment is not bigger, by any means. And we want, of course, our main challenge now is to ensure that with this increment, the teachers are actually in school teaching. And that's why we want you, actually, as the media, also to help the government, so that we all hold these teachers
accountable to the money that we are
because they are getting better pay.
I mean, as we close down this, because time is certainly not on our side, we know that for the most part, much of our budget estimates, a sizable proportion was being funded by our development partners. Today, we are now happy that we are now able to fund over 80% of this. And you are talking about enhancement of revenue collection, meaning maybe next year we'll be finding 85 or even 90% of our own budget. But tell me, in very all honesty, this pull out by some development partners over many reasons, including some bills and including our own financial management systems and all that, to what extent did it destabilize our ability to run government from a fiscal perspective?
Now, over the years, we had defined a very clear strategy to reduce our fiscal deficit, which is essentially the difference between our revenues and our expenditures. So we had a clear roadmap on doing that. Now, what has happened actually is still within our roadmap. And I think the mistake that is being made, or the misinformation, essentially what donors did was to minimize on budget support, the money which is given to us, and we use it directly as if it's our own resources. But project aid is still
going
stable.
On, without a doubt.
So
and in fact, many of them argue that they will remove from their budget support and put into projects.
Yes. Project support is stable. Definitely budget support has gone down. But even the resources which they have pulled out of the government, they are still financing NGOs in Uganda. So those resources still benefit, the Ugandan population. But in terms of our own capacity, if you look at last year, our proportion, the domestically financed proportion of the budget was around 80%. This year, next year, 14-15, it's about 81%. So, I mean, it is definitely it is increasing. And as I said, it is part of our deliberate strategy to ensure that we minimize donor dependency. And that takes me back to the earlier point I made, which is revenue enhancement.
Absolutely.
There is simply no way you are going to reduce on donor dependency unless you are able to enhance your revenues.
Without a doubt. Now, Kenneth, this is perhaps not even very much related to the budget, but since I have the opportunity of having you here on my dice, and you come from the Ministry of Finance, I'll ask you a question that many civil servants have been asking. Some of them say they go for months on end without receiving their salary. I mean, this I should be asking the Ministry of Public Service. But Ministry of Public Service always bounces it off back to Finance. Finance is not remitting our monies. Let's have heard your permanent secretary and secretary to the Treasury saying many times that there has been now a new system of payment to civil servants. Can you kindly elucidate on this issue of people missing out on their salaries for some time? Because if a civil service is not paid on time and well, I think something will be lost there.
Yes, it is definitely true. We have had challenges on the payroll. Of course, as we all know, there are ghost workers delaying. Who
your minister says are part of us, they are our children. They
are
everywhere,
even in the private sector. We have seen situations where there are ghost workers in the private
sector. Not in ESCOM, of course.
So essentially what we have done is to reform the salary payment system from a centralized one where the entire payroll of government was managed by the Ministry of Public Service, and then they would send it to Ministry of Finance for payment. We have now turned it around and made it a responsibility of the accounting officer. Because in any case, who is better placed to know the staff in his or her organization? It must be the accounting officer. So we have put the responsibility of paying these public servants to the accounting officer. And the reason we are doing that is that it will be easy for us to hold somebody responsible. So if
and closer to the payment.
Closer to the people. If Minister of Finance, if at the end of the month I'm not paid, I will run to my accounting officer. In the past, you'd of course blame, you'd go to the accounting officer, he would blame Minister of Public Service.
Minister of Public Service
would blame Minister of Finance. Finance would blame the accounting officer. So it would actually be circus.
A vicious
cycle. Exactly, it would be a vicious cycle. So what we have decided is to ensure that is done. And from the experience now, so far from the measures we have undertaken, one, we have seen many ghosts which have been removed from the payroll. At the end of this financial year, we are going to save approximately 85 billion shillings.
You're kidding me.
85 billion shillings as a result of these measures. Wow. Secondly, we have written to all accounting officers and actually issued press releases saying anybody who has not been paid should bring forth this information. As I speak now, Parliament is considering, it is full, of course, as always, 10,000 emails per minute. But as I speak now, we are in Parliament seeking parliamentary authority to pay all these workers. I can bet by end of the financial year, which is actually end of June, the majority of the people who were not paid in the previous months would have been paid.
I think you, the workers, you, the civil servants, have listened to it and heard it very clearly from the horse's mouth. The other day I was in the Chief Administrative Officer's office of Ginger, that very wonderful lady, and she was telling me she's very welcoming of the new finance system, and she wants to believe that by the end of the financial year, all her civil servants will have been paid and will give her a sigh of relief, because previously guns have been on her head. Kenneth, I must thank you for sharing these wonderful insights into the budget on this program, and indeed you have articulated it, and for the most part I must say I am wowed by your articulacy. This is something I didn't expect from a public servant, a civil servant for that matter, and not that I have no respect for them, but I think you are a bit faster than the ordinary civil servant. That you should take for a compliment.
Things have changed.
Interestingly. Let's take a short break. When we return, it Simon Says.
Okay, thanks.
I think you, welcome back. I think you have heard him very clearly, the Director of Budget at Ministry of Finance, Mr. Kenneth Mugambe, who did articulate to us exactly, number one, what a budget actually is. This budget that we normally go to listen to, it's an estimate of government's expected revenues in the coming financial year and its expected expenditures. And this particular budget, he says, is different from all others because it's an investment budget, a budget that is earmarking huge sums of money to go into hardcore investments for the future of this country in infrastructure and other places. He gave us lots of assurances as to why they chose to do the things they did. Remove some exemptions, impose some taxes in some sectors, and of course increase the salaries of teachers and medical workers. He obviously also, as he concluded, did mention to us that now, right about now, the whole payment system of public service is changing for the better, that now the people to be held accountable for the payments of the civil servants will be those that are closest to them, who are the accounting officers, so that someone can be held accountable should there be ghosts or no payment or underpayment of their staff. I mean, for me, this was good news coming in from at least the right quarters. Now, what we have to do is, it is June the 19th. This time around next year, This man, I want to believe, will still be the director of budget. We'll bring him back here and we'll hold him to account on the very words he has used here. Please, let's not suffer from the usual Ugandan malaise over selective amnesia. Let us remember what he has said and hold him to his word when he returns here the next time we're discussing budget issues. Have a good morning, be productive, and of course, indeed, contribute to the welfare of yourself, and by extension, this country will benefit for the good of yourself, your children, and your children's children. Good morning.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
Aro, give me 5 stress, 3 gonorrhea.
Kale muli wano, you think you've brought carpasses omwana yena sobola gamba super deep. Si myaka jafe.
I'm like, I like my swag too. So what about it? Then she was like, I also like your accent. That village accent. Now.
Okay, why didn't sign for when you got political Tayaka no Mozanga Nakajawa?
Katina Kambuza, why are you crying?
I think I'm Big Mitch, Larry Hoover. Put that in Kiprotich's accent.
I think I'm Big Mitch, Larry Hoover.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Mr. Krabs, are you ready to party?
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it, move it.
Wow! Hello, fellow motor enthusiastics.
Oh, Mr. Krabs, isn't there any way for us to return all of them back to normal?
Hey! How'd he do that? The Red Ranger's a bigger problem than I thought!
It's time to finish this thing up!
What can I do to make them love me again?
What are you drawing, Kitty?
Mega Rangers? Yeah! That's a mega win!
Hello? King Julian, you are truly inspiring. Ow!
Sponge pot! Fantastic!
Having broken the hunger story in Napak, we appeal to the general public to contribute towards the Feed Napak initiative. Kindly donate items like clothes, food, shoes and other items to support our vulnerable brothers and sisters in Napak district, Karamoja. Kindly bring your donated items to the Uganda National Theatre from the 2nd to 30th June 2014 or send your mobile money contribution to Winnie Banage on MTN 0772 121986. For more information, call Diana on 0791 162357. We can do great things with great love.
I'm going to blow your mind and I'm going to twist your taste buds. The flavors are already coming together. I can feel them. Very lovely, very appetizing, very healthy. Remember, the way you see it, the way you like it, is the way you get it from my kitchen to your kitchen.
on the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
La Patrona.
They took him away. Apparently, he did have a heart attack.
Ricardo, please tell the doctors to spare no effort or money to save him.
What happened to Lucia?
The doctor wants to talk to us. It sounds like it isn't going to be good news. I can't face him.
What are you doing here?
Hello?
Constanza Goldstein. And who might you be?
Veronica Dantes. And the pleasure's all mine.
Those lands belong to Gabriella. It was for that reason that she was locked up in that house of horrors and hell.
Everyone here knows that I own El Chamuco. Are you calling me a thief?
La Patrona.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Good morning, you're still watching Morning at NTV, and today would like to wish a happy birthday to our boss here at NTV, Maurice Mugisha. Good morning, Maurice.
Morning, Mabel.
How are you today?
Well, I am fantastic.
You're fantastic. You sound like you're still in bed.
Yeah, actually, I was in the office.
You are? Sorry?
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't quite get that. Do we get cake today?
You actually did pull this one on me because I'm actually in office.
Sorry?
And you did pull this one on me and I'm in office. So,
you're actually in office?
I'll have to hold you for this. And anyone who is behind this call, surprise call.
Maurice, you're actually in office today?
Yes, I am.
Ah, you didn't come in to say hi?
Well, as you know, I am always doing my job and making sure you and many others do a fantastic job on air.
Oh, okay. Well, we do wish you a happy birthday, all of us here, not only at Morning at NTV, but the entire station. You are a wonderful boss. So we hope after this we shall all get pay rises. And how old are you?
Well, I need to confirm. First of all, I want to say thank you for the surprise call and for your compliment. I can only confirm that I can now no longer stand for youth MP, which means I'm now just about 35.
Just about 35.
Above 35.
Above 35. Oh, someone is whispering that you're 2 years. I have to add 2 years to 35. So
No.
I think... Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the great job you do. You're much appreciated here at NTV.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the surprise.
Okay, then. And now moving on to some of your Facebook messages this morning. We have Roger saying, we are settled with the way the budget is. I think he wants us as Ugandans to move on and stop complaining. Government has said, so we should continue. Hilary Mugabe is saying, good morning at NTV. Thank you for the programs. And someone is asking how to win a cup. If you would like to win those beautiful Morning at NTV mugs, be among the first 5 people to answer the question correctly, the question of the day that we start the show off with. Now on Facebook, there is a lot happening on Spain, and I just had to show this one to you. Marvin says Spain has still got a chance to finish 3rd in the group. Wenger would have gone for 4th. Hashtag parting shot. Now this just cracked me up. And also Spain, apparently the S is silent, and Madrid need to sort themselves out. Lots of people having a field day with Spain, and we shall now cross over to Brian, who is on the other side of the Serena Hotel for Everyday Life. Good morning, Brian. Enjoying your chai, I can see. And whom do you have, and whom are you talking about? What are you talking about today?
Well, Mabel, I'm probably missing some cake because here in Uganda, when it is your birthday, you're the one that buys the cake. So, Maurice Mugisha, hook us up, please. Otherwise, happy birthday, and we know that you'll probably take us to things like KFC, La Cafeteria, you know. Well, very happy birthday, and for the rest of you who are born this day, enjoy the day too. Now, of course, there's lots of feedback on Twitter. And Andrew Galabs is saying taxing schools shouldn't translate to higher fees because corporate taxes take away all the profits that these schools will make. Karamaji Gerald also commenting, and attended Tindat also retweeting some of those comments. We had Kenneth Mugambe, who is the director of the budget in the Ministry of Finance, looking at how money is allocated and, most importantly, what this year's budget will reflect. And your questions or comments can be sent to our Facebook page, Morning at NTV, and of course Twitter at Morning at NTV. We can continue that conversation online, even if the big story is already done. Now, in a family of 6 children, where the oldest is 18 years and cannot prepare even a basic meal, when the maid has to leave or leaves abruptly, the family is left in a crisis as the parents take on to calling a relative to help cook and wash some of the utensils at home. This morning on Everyday Life, we'll be looking at whether you as a parent are teaching your children the basic house chores, or if you are young, when you are young, were you taught this by your parents? Coming up on Everyday Life. Janice Luchamuzi this morning, wife to Mark Luchamuzi, the main man. You love being called that.
Yes, I do.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for
Brian.
joining us.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're a mother of...
4 children.
4?
Yes.
You look like you're a mother of 1.
Well, thank you. I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Janice is also an interior designer, but this morning here in the capacity of a mother who has 4 children and trying to raise them up. Janice, this is a very huge debate.
Okay.
Because I think people have taken this to their marriages where they can't, you know, fix. They want 1, 2, 3, 4 maids to do the housework. Take care of
everything.
Who do we blame in this case? Is it the children? Is it the parents? Do we still, are you going to blame media again? We are always blamed for every evil.
No. We will not blame the media. I think I'll first and foremost put the blame on the parents, us the parents. And I believe that the parents are the first role models the children see, even before they are old enough to see the media and their influence on their lives. Even before they are old enough to see a maid, they see a parent.
Right.
So the first influence is a parent. So I'll put the blame first on the parents. Then the other factors will come in eventually. As parents, I believe we are supposed to be the earliest initiators of chores in the house, because children can be stimulated quite early. For example, I watch my 1.5-year-old son get hold of a phone, his dad's phone or my phone, and pace about the room, you know. He's talking on the phone, and I'm thinking, where did you see that? Is that how you pace? And the simple thing is that he is imitating something he has seen. And there you are thinking he's not old enough to learn anything. But there you go, he's imitating. So I believe we can put those skills the children have at an earliest age positively, you know. And then we can be able to stimulate them to do chores. For example, I can invite him, come and watch me do this, or just take his hand and he watches me water the flowers. And this happened actually. My 5-year-old son, Aki, I found him overdosing the plants when he was quite young. And I was like, why are you doing this? I mean, the plants, there's too much water because mommy does it.
Yes.
So I believe, whereas chores are concerned, we can stimulate, we can role play, and these children can see it positively, because sometimes we present chores as a negative thing. If you don't do this, I'll not give you food or something like this. Stimulate positively, and if possible, give a reward where it's due, especially to young ones.
Because I was going to ask you, our parents do all this work.
Yes.
But then they fail to pass on those particular skills to us.
Yes.
What happens? Do they love us so much that they don't want us to carry the burden of doing these things?
Well, some parents are probably not aware, as I said, that children can learn very early on in life. They think they want to put it off for longer, you know. Let's say, let me wait until he or she is about 8. Then I can start teaching her how to do this or teaching him how to do this. But we imitate early. And if the parents need to get out of that, because even when you're expecting, there are some mothers who are told, most mothers are told, play music when the baby is in the stomach. How do you expect that works, you know? The child actually can hear music. Someone told me that their child loves classical music because they played classical music while they're expecting. So let us not underlook the early exposure of chores as parents. I know we love our children so much. Sometimes we want to have them to have the best in life. Yeah, some people say, oh, I grew up in a harsh life. I don't want any of this for my children. And so we spoil them instead of positively building them for their future.
Is there a particular age to introduce house chores? Now we're talking about serious business where a child will cook, a child will mop the house, a child will wash the clothes, all these simple things. Is there a particular age that you're supposed to? What is your experience?
Well, there isn't a particular age per se, but there are certain chores that advance with age. You know that a 3-year-old won't cook, so you don't want to take those chances, you know, and then that's why you need to keep them away from the charcoal stove while you're cooking, because you don't even want them to imitate that.
Yes.
So, but you can invite a 5 to 6-year-old to just watch you and know how to see how you carefully handle fire, because cooking has to involve fire, otherwise it's not cooking. So, the younger children learn their age-appropriate chores, you know. For example, a child knows how to pick up their toys even at 2 years. I've seen that happen, or I've even done that. We have a special song we sing that it's time for toys away. So when the child sees you creating putting the actions to the song, next time when you sing that song, they will know what that song means. They see mommy picking up toys away, putting in a box. They are limited. So children can learn chores according to their age, the appropriate age. So teach them early, and then as they progress in life, teach them as the responsibility as they grow according to their ages. My 10-year-old can bake some cookies, can cook a simple meal, you know, can even, because if it's my birthday or their dad's birthday or Father's Day, you'll be sleeping and they bring for you something here. She brings you something she has prepared herself. That is at 10 years old, you know. And I believe that even some children start early. I've seen some children in different settings at 6 or 7. They are taking care of their young brother and sister. They are carrying one on their back. Mommy is busy in the garden.
Yeah.
This is a 5-year-old carrying a 1-year-old on her back. So different settings, but let us not neglect the importance of starting early and giving age-appropriate responsibilities.
I think some people have been blamed, say, for using the rewarding, thing. If you do this, I'll take you to the. Does it work? How do you motivate children to do this?
To work. You need
because,
to
when you're playing, I remember my experience was that somehow my mother always called me when I was playing football to go and wash.
Your favorite game.
And wash utensils. I'm like, really? Do you have to do it at this time? And I was never friendly,
you took it negatively because it was interrupting you.
You're always getting into my business, and that's the attitude I had.
No, first you talked about rewards, and these rewards work when the children are quite young, because it encourages them. When you're stimulating, sometimes it's not so forthcoming. So you give a reward, but at a young age, and that can be appropriate because the child gets encouraged. But as the child grows, you need to create the feeling of responsibility that every person needs to become a responsible citizen. And this is what prepares us for our jobs when we go to work. This is what prepares us to be, responsible citizens in our country. That you don't just work because they are going to do what? To reward you. but because you have to. Now, back to that point of your football game and what, I think and I believe that we need to create a time for these chores, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's time when there's some homes which have no schedule at all, you know? Like, for example, in boarding school, there's a timetable. The bell rings, it's time for this. The bell rings, I'm not saying bring a bell into our homes. I'm only saying create a schedule at home. Then people will fall in within the schedule. Because I'll know that if I need to play football, what is on the schedule? Can I first do this? Then I know mommy will not call me at a time when I'm doing what? At a time when, but then sometimes we're not cautious of that. You're like, when the guy has gone to play, when you've gone to play, you're like, now this one has gone to play and these dishes are not what? Brian! And probably, but if Brian knows that there's a schedule, if I need to play, there is ABCD to accomplish in the house. Personally, I've taken that, whatever, to another level. I put stickers on the fridge. I put stickers on their closets, Rainbow's closet, Noah's closet, Aki's closet, and I'm thinking this is your program today.
Everywhere you turn,
yes, whatever you do, keep this in mind. So that even when I go and come back, we shall together look at that list of things to do. And I'm thinking, okay, this is the time. This is the first thing you are supposed to do. Open your windows when you wake up. Let us check and see. Is your bed made? Make your bed. Do your morning devotions. And then I find you sitting on telly or skipping rope outside. I'm thinking, okay, that is all and well and good. Children are supposed to play. But has ABCD been, you know? If there's a routine, children can fall into the routine. If there's no routine, expect, you know, things to be done haphazardly.
Well, you can send in your questions on Facebook and Twitter at Morning at NTV. Our Facebook page is Morning at NTV. Janice Lucham was this morning, a mother of 4, sharing with us her experience teaching children the basic house chores. Musasi Timothy saying it's important to teach children because they need to have a positive attitude towards work. Sijali Timothy saying so as to know house problems for future house planning.
True.
Okay. Wugol saying, where I was born, boys are treated like the kings. I have no experience to share in Uganda because I don't even know how to cook hot water. I will take this as a joke. Is that true?
So. No, it's not at all true. I'll tell you this. My husband is the best cook I have seen. Even when I grew up in a home of both brothers and sisters. My husband cooks and really cooks well. Most times he challenges me, and yet I'm a girl. This only goes to show you that he grew up in a home where there was no special job for a boy or a girl. They all had their routine and they had to do it. If it was cooking, any sex, both sexes had to cook. And I'll tell you, he's a very good cook. So I appreciate that.
Keba Nathan saying, it's very important. I started doing them at the age of 10, and now that I live alone, my house is clear than 90% of the women. Most women don't know how to cook and clean, and I have no problem doing any of those. Muzukuru Paul saying, it's very good because children may never fail anywhere they go, occupation-wise.
True.
In Torres, South Sudan, parents have tremendous roles to play. You never know, anything can happen. Teaching your children is quite essential as far as today's world is concerned. The earlier the better. All right. Iga Simon Chigongo saying, if you don't learn to work when you are still young, the future is always a hurdle to you. I agree with Janice saying that exposing your children at infancy is a great deal.
Thank you.
Janice, any last word to the ladies or parents or men, especially single parents who you know, who are blamed sometimes for not fulfilling those roles?
Just take courage, do your role, but most importantly, be a role model. Because if the child has not seen you do something, they'll probably not do it. Because there's a saying that, an old saying that, do as I say, but don't do as I do. But that goes to deaf ears, because children at a certain age will not even listen to what you say. And then you ask them, do you have ears? But how about you change and say, do as I do. You as a parent, do it. See that you are doing it. Then as you grow, you'll be surprised, because they'll even remind you and say, oh, I didn't wash up the dishes, it's my turn or that. Because eventually you become the parent who has been a role model.
Right.
It's important for us to be role models so that they can model our what we have taught them.
Yeah.
And then also start early, Brian, start early. Because there'll be no way you'll wake up one day and say, you need to wash your clothes. And it's like, how?
It's not just
the maid, it's the maid who usually washes them. And this maid syndrome is just spoiling things as well.
Right.
Because as parents, we know they are helpful, but we are actually not doing any favors to our children.
Right.
Because personally, they had to start washing their underwear. We had to start withdrawing some laundry slowly by slowly. Starting with Noah, the firstborn. We had to start withdrawing his underwear, his socks, and then you start with personal laundry, personal effects. Because by now, if I find Noah or Rainbow's underwear in the laundry, everyone has to sort out their laundry before it goes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you start from there. Even little children, the teachers in nursery school tell us that stimulate their finger muscles. I am washing clothes. Invite him, put some socks, hankies in a basin, and let them play around. Stimulate them early, and as they grow, give appropriate responsibilities, and we shall be on the right track.
Janice Luchamuzi, thank you so much for joining
You're
us.
welcome,
You're a
Brian.
very busy woman, and we'll try and get Janice on our Facebook page. Send those questions, keep them coming in. At the end of the day, we must raise a generation that is awesome.
Yeah.
And yes, let's correct the past mistakes of the older generation. Isma is standing by. Isma and Corridors of Sport. This is called ashaming and eliminating. That's what happened to Spain last night. What is your take on that?
I would never have predicted Spain to get knocked out in the first round, or I would never have predicted Spain to get knocked out after only 2 games, but never did I give them a chance of winning the World Cup that it did. I remember Brian telling you about the law of diminishing marginal returns, and I insist the only reason Spain are out is because in economics they hit their peak and must be headed for the bottom. But as they slide, they take a nosedive. Netherlands are through, and we'll be talking about the Dutch. Then there is the big one. Luis Suarez has declared himself fit for the game between Uruguay and England later today. And there is a girl who's been doing great things for Uganda in Europe, Winnie Nanyondo. That and more when we get to sports.
Well, it's only 25 minutes on to 9. Let's talk sport when we return. Good morning.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Why is Mombasa strategic to the countries of the East and Central Africa region? What makes the port of Mombasa the preferred port on the East African coastline? This channel has been dredged to a depth of -15 meters and widened to 300 meters at its narrowest point to enable the port accommodate larger vessels. These facilities make the port of Mombasa one of the busiest ports in the world for handling grain import aid cargoes for the World Food Programme. On 100 acres of reclaimed land is under construction with a total berth length of 900 meters. This will expand the port's container handling facilities to accommodate the latest generation of container ships and increase handling capacity by 1.2 million TEUs annually.
Health and Wellness
is brought to you by Caring Tech Strength, Panadol Advance. When minutes matter, take Panadol Advance. Panadol Advance is a fast pain reliever with Optizop technology. Caring Tech Strength, Panadol Advance.
Everybody in Parliament, as long as they can wake up and vote for the NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admired the President Museveni.
Is the ICC a first court targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only the 2 individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
Ekifo ekimu kisawa musu n'ekyalo ekiweddeko abamanye bakiraza mumwa. Tugenda kutuuka gy'oli oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo, embeera mw'okolera, ebyobufuzi, ebyobulamu n'ensonga endala nnyingi. Ebyogerwa tebiyita. Tuusa eddoboozi lyo, yogera naffe buli lwakuna otereevu ku NTV akawungeezi.
Mikwano gyaffe bana NTV ate naddala mu bannaamu muli gw'emizannyo. Muli gw'ebyemizannyo gukomyewo 2014 ate mutya. Kati ate gukyusiza n'obudde. Kati gwa 7 kitundu wali gwa 9 ne gugoberera ntusanyuka kati gubongereddeko wano malya g'ebyemisana awo. Busooke gubatayize gubaletire buli kintu kyonna kalonda eno byemizannyo. Muli gw'ebyemizannyo mupya 2014 Isima waali alagira Argentina yenjo mukubira eddiba lye omukwano gujja kukomawo ku muli gw'emizannyo naye kasita kinatuuka eri bano ba Messi okulumba abalenzi baffe Thiago Silva awo tewali mukwano omuli gw'emizannyo 2014 President.
Well, it's 20 minutes on to 9 o'clock, and most of these cameramen support Spain. Isma, joining us this morning. Isma, what a shame.
Good morning, Brad. There's so much.
I did not know, you know, last night, like I said, Spain must be thinking, what in the world is going on?
No, but they're not the first. And Thierry Henry actually said, I have been there. It's not fun. I feel sorry for them and I feel sad. Also on Twitter, I mean, Spain just had a chill.
Yeah.
Chileans played the Spanish guitar. How do you solve a problem like Spain? Male heroes are requesting for a friendly with Spain.
The latest I had that Spain just tasted the wrong chili sauce.
That was quite a performance. So when Thierry Henry says that, I think you have to go back to 2002 when France came into the World Cup as defending champions and got knocked out of the group stages. Actually, at the time, is that the French even failed to score a goal during the group stages. I remember they lost the first game, I think, to Senegal. Eventually, and then got knocked out that easily. Actually, they had to strap Zinedine Zidane for the decider in that group to play. And that also didn't work out for them. So when Thierry Henry says he knows what this means, how to be in this, what it means to be in this place, is got to be right. But I think over the two games, the way Vicente Lobosky summed it up after the game yesterday, he said, we weren't good enough, we didn't deserve to go through, and that was it. I think that is simpler to accept than anything, any kind of excuse the Spaniards would give. Yesterday, they played for me what could be the side of the World Cup. That Chilean team, and over time, I've come to learn how to warn everyone about this Chilean side. I remember in the last 1 year, I watched them play against England at Wembley, and the game they drew with Germany in Berlin, 2-2. They beat England at Wembley by 2-0. This is a team that plays at great pace. And I remember saying something yesterday about how I felt like Spain would have a problem countering the pace of the Chileans. Not that I gave them a chance of winning the game, because I think up front, Eduardo Vargas and then Alexis Sanchez are brilliant in switching positions. Yeah. There isn't a way you're going to stop them. And the Chileans play with that kind of tempo, and they play and represent what their manager is. If you're watching the game last night and you saw the reactions of their manager, Jorge Sampaoli, the guy who is Argentine, but now coaches the Chileans. If you saw what he was doing on the touchline, he jumps with the team, he runs with it. He actually reminds me of Diego Simeone, the Atletico Madrid coach. And if all Argentine coaches are like this, let Argentina win the World Cup. But the one they have isn't that animated. They play like their manager. When they had to throw their bodies on the line, when the Spaniards were staging a mini fight back in the second half after going down to those goals by Aguirre and then Eduardo Vargas. Yeah. I thought they were very good defensive. Gary Medel. Is he the same player at Crystal Palace? He's totally, rather at Cardiff City. He's totally a different player for the Chileans. They look much better than probably they are better as a sum than the individuals. When you watch them for their individual clubs, they're not as this good. But Jorge Sampaoli has put together what you can call a red dragon. And yesterday before the game, Arturo Vidal, who was one of their better players, the guy with 3 mohawks on one head, said, we are going to win the World Cup. Probably Spain should have had that call before the game kicked off. Yeah, and
that's very bold.
It's very, very bold. That's how proud they are. That's how proud they are of how they play.
So they go through with
the Dutch with 6 points and have to play for the top spot with the Dutch come Monday.
Someone said that it's better to be the leader of the group because you get the weaker person in the other group.
That is the math, but normally I think to win the World Cup you've got to beat everyone. They would want to finish it by, I think you'd want to avoid Brazil in the round of 16. Because Brazil go through, and Brazil will have an easy fixer because they play Cameroon in the final encounter. Cameroon were knocked out, as we're going to be telling you last night. So it's going to be that kind of thing. But I think the bigger question now for everyone now is going to be what next for Spain, because it's been a question that has been being ground. To be honest, I think the first person they are going to look at is Vicente Del Bosque. He's 63. Is he going to improve with this team? Before the World Cup, he was under a 2-year contract to take the team to the Euro 2016. Now, will Vicente Del Bosque be there in 2 years? Is he the right man to revitalize this Spanish team? For me, I don't think that they will take as long to win again as they did between 1965 and 2008. Because for all those years, Spain were underachievers. Because they have quality of players coming through at the bottom. They are the European champions at under 17 level. The European champions at under 21 level. Where they beat Italy in the final by 4-0. Now, they've got to put these guys into the team. They've got to inject some kind of pace into this team. Probably the tiki-taka is not the only way to go. I thought right from the day the team was selected, I've been extremely critical. I don't see a reason why Mata was on that team. He wasn't never going to contribute because he plays like Messi, he plays like Iniesta and Silva.
There's been a lot of duplication of roles in Spain.
There's been a lot of duplication. Exactly. Now, they are dumped out of the World Cup. Probably Santi Cazorla should have played more. I look at Xavi, and right from the start at Barcelona, he wasn't playing well. There is Pique, there is Iker Casillas. There's a lot of things to work out with this team going forward. But probably now that everyone have lost and they've reached the bottom, there isn't any further they can sing. Right. Because no defending champion has been knocked out after 2 games in the World Cup. This is the bottom. After this, Spain have got to figure out where they're going. Yeah, they have to rebuild. Probably with a new manager for me.
The French were, why are you saying no other team has been knocked out?
They were knocked out, but not after 2 games. They had a chance going into the final game of the group stages back in 2002. 2 games and they're out of the World Cup.
That was
okay, you did mention the Dutch earlier. They beat Australia yesterday. And I'm just wondering, was that the game of the tournament so far, do you think?
I've got to say, I believe it was. The Australians were supposed to be a team that would come to the pitch and lie down and get beat by the Dutch, by whatever margin the Dutch wanted. And at some point, they were leading by 2-1. Who would have ever imagined the Dutch would have been leading there? They would have been trailing against Australians at any one point in football. They were trailing because Miles Jedinak had given the Australians the lead. And actually, they had scored probably, for me, the goal of the tournament. A contender for goal of the tournament, a contender for one of the greatest goals of the World Cup.
Absolute class.
Does not match probably Maradona's goal in 1986 against the English. Maybe pun intended. Pun intended. But I thought the Australians gave us good to the game as probably they got. Yeah, Tim Cahill. That is the kind of goal that you want to see at the World Cup. And I thought eventually the Dutch, I've been surprised by one thing. Louis van Gaal, when he sets out his team, he has 5 defenders on that pitch, but they don't play defensive football. Wherever they got the conviction to play attack-minded football and get Van Persie and Robben as many chances as they can in every match, you've got to give it Louis van Gaal. Because I was very critical of him picking 5 defenders. I'm thinking, okay, the Dutch are not this. The Dutch are supposed to be one of the most entertaining sides in world football. 4 years ago, he was extremely critical of Bart van Marwijk, who was the coach of the Dutch, that he didn't think he was playing the right way because he was playing too defensive. Now he goes and selects 5 defenders, but these 5 defenders look like 11 strikers.
They are attacking defenders.
They're all attacking defenders, and they've got their reward. They have 2 top scorers in the tournament. Robin van Persie and Ian Robben have 3, alongside Thomas Muller of Germany.
Or maybe they are looking for top scorers.
Probably. And will they improve after this? That's a bigger question, because they've really played well in the group stage. 8 goals in 2 games. Okay, they've conceded 3, but we'll take the 8. Some teams win the World Cup and scored only 9. Euro 2004, the Greeks scored a little about 6 goals and won the Euro. So if the Dutch have scored 8, then they deserve to be here. They're in the round of 16.
We were blanked out last night. When I say we, I mean Africans. Croatia blanked us out. I expected a loss, but not this huge. Isn't that so disappointing? Well,
the man, I think, losing is acceptable in sports. Sometimes you don't win. But the manner in which the Cameroonians lost is disgraceful. Because they had a man sent off very early. Okay, that made it extremely hard. For the Croatian side, who I thought that Mario Mandzukic returning from his suspension was already going to be very tough. And Mandzukic lived up to all the hype that we who love him I think he's a player. He scored one of the goals. And then Ivica Olic and Ivan Perisic got the others for the Croatians. But I've got to think that the Cameroonians should be very disappointed. Remember the other week we were discussing how they went to the World Cup while still discussing how much they would be paid for doing well. Yeah. Now the attention was never there. That's why they get a man sent off. Now, if that wasn't disappointing towards the end of the game, and this was missed by the referee, they should have been down to 9 men. Benoit Asu Ekoto went and head-butted Mukwanjo, one of his teammates. It's absolutely mad that the Cameroonians get knocked out and then start headbutting one another. Are we being goats here? Are we being cows? I don't get it, because the last time I saw players who I found very stupid fighting one another were the two Newcastle players. I think it was Kiron Dyans and Lee Boyer several years ago.
Lehman used to do some of that.
But Lehman, not to this extent. If you see that headbutt for Benoit Suekoto, you'll be extremely disappointed. The way the Cameroonians got dumped. But, okay, the war is going to be in a tough group, because now it's between Croatia and Mexico, for who joins probably Brazil. Brazil are also not yet through, but Brazil will be feeling very confident because they play Cameroon, who are already knocked out. But you could lose in a gracious way. Yeah. Now Cameroon were disgraceful the way they played. I thought they were inept in the first game against Mexico. They offered nothing against the Croats yesterday, and then a headbutt.
But you know,
come on, we can have several other African teams and not Cameroon at the World Cup.
Now, that's my next question to you. We always say Africa does not have, is not represented fairly. But with the Majani that we do, for sure.
And we want more.
For sure, and we want more. Because Cameroon should know they are holding the weight of Africa on their shoulders. Those 5 countries, Cameroon, Algeria, and Ghana.
They understand?
Ivory Coast, maybe Ivory, but they go there. It's such a privilege. You should go there and give your very best.
I think the bigger disappointment for people like Mebo is that Cameroon have appeared at the World Cup more than any other African team. This is the 7th occasion they've been there.
Whatever, quarterfinals.
Yeah, but now at this point, I think in time, they've not produced the talent in the last 10 years to compete at this level. They are not the Cameroonian side that won the Africa Cup in 2000 and 2002. They are not the same. The Patrick Mboma generation, the Jeremy Njitap, that kind of generation, it's long gone. But even then, you can lose more graciously. You can lose more graciously. I thought the Spaniards would be more gracious about how they played yesterday in the second half.
They really did well.
Yeah, they pushed the Chileans.
They wanted to get
they really
the game
tried to
back,
win the game, and Claudio Bravo, the Chilean goalkeeper, is the difference between the Chileans winning 2-0 and probably drawing 2-2. But the Cameroonians, I'm feeling like we should change the way African teams qualify.
We should probably put a ban.
A ban, and they get Zambia maybe would have done better.
Chipolo. Let them give us a chance.
Uganda Cranes. Now we can play. There was that Apple's full joke that Uganda was going to have a friendly with Spain. Maybe now it can actually happen. Anyway, let's talk about England. I'm not wearing my earrings today, but Suarez.
Your doomed earrings.
Suarez is back. You're dead.
I'm just
Why is he back? Isn't his injury like very...
Can't it go on?
Can the injury go?
Probably if the English were Ghanaian, then they would be having Luis Suarez out of the game, because yesterday, you remember that story about the Ghanaian witch doctor? Cristiano Ronaldo limped out of training for Portugal after only 15 minutes and was trapped in layers and layers of ice. The English wished the same for Luis Suarez, and Raheem Sterling, with his teammate at Liverpool, said that he wouldn't have missed Luis Suarez at all at all if Suarez didn't play in that game. But I have a feeling that for them, for either side, it's a World Cup. It's a fine of sorts. Yeah. The Uruguayans lost their opener, so did the English. But one element which I'd probably think the English could have a slight advantage, even the Uruguayans are probably bigger reputation. They've won the World Cup on 2 occasions and got the semi-finals 4 years ago, is that the English can play the ball at pace, and the Uruguayans have struggled there. And luckily for the Uruguayans, that their slowest player, Diego Lugano, the captain, is out injured, suffered a knee problem in the opener against Costa Rica, so won't be playing tonight. So that should help. They will probably freshen up at the back. But it's going to be a very, very close game. I fear, to be honest with you, Mabel, I fear for the English. I do fear for the English. The pitch is good
this time, eh?
Yeah, the pitch is good. But there's one thing about Luis Suarez. He's never too far away from the news. He might do something very stupid, or he might be the difference. And you can never put this beyond Luis Suarez. He's that kind of player. He could do something that is the reason why Uruguay advanced. And I thought in the first game, Edinson Cavani struggled against the Costa Ricans because he was on his own up front. But Luis Suarez is here.
He would be the man that saves.
He's never too far away from the news. He's a bit like the Didier Drogba. They are never too far away from the headlines. Either they do something brilliant or something extremely stupid on the day. And if he does something brilliant, the English, they are in big trouble.
Speaking of Didier Drogba, Ivory Coast is literally the only team holding Africans afloat with any decent play out there. And thank God they delivered against the Japanese. Today they face Colombia. What is the expectation?
I expect a very close game, but while I say that, I remember saying the same in the opening game between Colombia and Greece, and then the Colombia just went and wiped the floor with the Greeks there, scoring 3 goals. Jose Peckerman, because of his kind of experience, will be very hard for the Ivorians to challenge their manager. But one thing the Colombians don't have is Radamel Falcao, and that's a psychological boost. The Greeks didn't benefit from it, the Ivorians should, because they don't have that physical player who is going to be coming at them. The other thing is that the South American teams, like we saw yesterday, one of the first teams to advance was Chile, with South American. Now Colombia is also South American. They know how to play in this country, in this kind of environment. There will be so much you might even think most of them are supporting Colombia. They would just be there in their Brazilian jerseys because Colombia are not too far away. But one of the things I was impressed with by the Ivorians in the first game, coming from a goal down 1, 2, they're extremely physical. When they crossed the ball, Wilfred Bony was very dangerous. When Javino ran at that Japanese backline, they looked very good. Now they've got to do the same. To add to that, they've got to see Yaya Toure get closer to that box. I don't think against the Japanese he got the space. The Colombians probably afford him more space than the Japanese did because they are probably much faster. The Colombians don't have the same kind of space. So I see a very close game, but I wouldn't give Ivory Coast an advantage in this. I would go for the Colombians 65-35 in terms of percentages to at least get that point. Yeah, because after that you would probably be the last team. The Colombians will be playing Japan and then Ivory Coast against Greece. But if Ivory Coast pick a point from this game, for me they will be as good as through to the next round, because I don't think the Greeks have what it takes even to score a goal at the World Cup. They just don't score that many. So I have a feeling that the Ivorians should be comfortable picking a draw here and then moving forward with that. That will be good enough. But if they lost the game, they'll have dug themselves a huge hole.
Well, let's pray for them. I think they'll deliver. Let Didier come in like at around 50 minutes and disorganize Colombia with his pomp, and we shall be through.
Okay, moving away from Brazil. Winnie Nanyondo, what happened in Czech Republic? She won something?
Yeah, she won an event, Golden Spike meet. Winnie Nanyondo is a former Ugandan star at world junior level, but we've had so many of those. Catherine Webombesa, Boniface Kiprop. But neither of those has converted the promise at junior level to the senior level. Back in 2012, when I watched her in Barcelona, she was doing the 1,500 and 800 meters. I thought she was the real deal. Then she goes and chooses to leave the track and go and run elsewhere. That is to leave the track and go and run cross country. And she was the first Ugandan to win a gold medal at the recent World Universal Cross Country Championships in NTV, the one we did discuss a lot here. Now she's turning that into the promise is becoming the real deal. 2 weeks ago in Netherlands, she went and beat Caster Semenya and ran her time, which the first time she ran
under 2 minutes. She beat the man woman?
Yeah. Oops. She beat Caster Semenya, and then she had a time below 2 minutes.
Sorry, Semenya is now a man.
No, she's a woman.
She's still a woman.
No, but she's
still a woman.
Okay,
so
that guy.
So Nanyondo comes in again, and the field probably doesn't have the Kenyans at this point in time, because one of the athletes she beat was Belarusian and then Americans. She goes to Ostrava in Czech Republic and runs another time below 2 minutes, and this is actually her record, her personal best. It's amazing how far she's come, and personally I'm extremely desperate to see a female athlete do well, because we probably haven't had one at this level since Dorcas Nzekuru. Now Nanyondo will go into the Commonwealth Games next month. Very confident of her chances, because she's been running on international circuit, and not only been running but performing. Because while she was winning in Ostrava, look at it this way: one of the greatest Ugandan athletes, that is Moses Kipsiro, finished 12th in the 3,000 meters. So how much confidence can Nanyondo take from this? It's got to be huge. It's got to be huge. I'm really hoping that my faith in her translates into energy in her legs and lungs. Really.
I wish that's all it took.
Yeah.
Dakaba's faith in you.
Yeah.
Translated into
Never have
energy.
faith in you, so do I have faith in you.
So my lungs and legs are...
Yeah, but for us,
as
Italy, we are beating who? We are beating who?
You don't play until tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Against Costa Rica.
Okay, okay. The English, probably it will be another exit this day, but while we are banking on the Ivorians to deliver for the Africans, here is your African proverb. One does not forego sleeping because of the possibility of nightmares.
Yeah, regardless of the fear of a nightmare, not having the right dream, you have to sleep. There's something you can't cheat. If you watch the budget, if you watch the State of the Nation address, you know you can't cheat sleep.
Why?
Yeah, I'm one of those who probably goes through this. I do cheat sleep a lot, but I pay the price, by the way. I do pay the price.
Probably be on the steering and whoops, you're out.
But also away from that, well, similar to that, you do not fear something just because you think you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Just like the English, they should not fear to play today just because.
I wanted to say that, but it's good it's coming from you.
Or even, the Cameroonians, they need to go and give their very best to Brazil.
Yeah.
You know, the Spaniards.
I remember at some point, like now, Mebo started the English. At some point, they always got knocked out of tournaments via penalties. And I remember watching one of the doctors, a documentary on BBC, and was talking about the fear of failure, why he thought the English team was failing every other time. That when they walked onto the pitch, or everywhere in life, I would relate this with life, is that when they walked onto the pitch, they thought about, what if I failed? Before if I scored this penalty and we won. So many times they were bogged down by the fear of failure than trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Every time they walked on the pitch, are thinking, oh, if this penalty doesn't go in, I'm ruined.
I'm dead.
Yeah,
Before you know
exactly.
it, you're dead.
You're dead. Now you've got to go in and see this as an opportunity. That's why I'm a big fan of players like Luis Suarez. He'll see an opportunity where there is none. If he sees a defender put his arm across, he'll dive because he sees the opportunity.
But if it comes down to biting, he'll bite.
Exactly.
By the way, sorry, what team does Maurice Mugisha support? It's his birthday.
Maurice Alimuro, England. Manchester United fans somehow love England. Yeah. So anyway, your fear of failure cannot stop you from going ahead with your dreams. Make sure you become a champion today. We want to say, have a fantastic day, and I will catch you tomorrow. The platforms on Facebook, Twitter, SMS are also open. Give us your feedback. Tell us how to make this show #1 above #1. Which take it away already #1, but we want to be above ourselves. So let's do that. And hasta la vista, baby, to all England supporters.
Good luck.
You need it.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
NTV, turning on your world. 33% of women are in local government councils, and there are high girl-child dropout rates in schools. Women don't benefit from their labor in the agriculture sector. Women and equal opportunities in Uganda. Let us discuss in a live talk show this Saturday at 5 p.m.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
La Patrona.
They took him away. Apparently, he did have a heart attack.
Ricardo, please tell the doctors to spare no effort or money to save him.
What happened to Lucia?
The doctor wants to talk to us. It sounds like it isn't going to be good news. I can't face him.
What are you doing here?
Hello.
Constanza Goldstein.
And who might you be? Veronica Dantes. And the pleasure's all mine.
Those lands belong to Gabriella. It was for that reason that she was locked up in that house of horrors and hell.
Everyone here knows that I own El Chamuco. Are you calling me a thief?
La Patrona.
You can download movies at the lowest prices another fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.